time. Welcome. Coffee is about connections. Coffee, though, is inherently disconnected. We buy coffee from places thousands of miles away and transform it into a product that further distances its consumers from its origins. Most baristas never have the opportunity to actually go to origin or connect with their producers. To make up for the gap, we focus on knowing every detail about our coffees, expounding on the importance of things like altitude, terroir, variety, and processing to best represent them to those we serve. But this information is so abstract that our points rarely land, and often it creates even more distance between the coffees that we love and the people we love to serve. So, how do we bridge that gap between the coffees that we love and the people we love to serve? We bridge the gap by creating a connection to a coffee and then connecting personally to our guests through a shared experience. So our connection begins in 2020 when we first met the Ducamos, and despite travel restrictions, we were able to maintain a strong relationship through their exciting coffees. This past February, our green coffee buying team was able to visit them for the first time on our first trip back to Ethiopia since 2020. The coffee I'm serving you today comes from their Gata farm, where Kenan Ducamo grows Ethiopian heirloom coffees at 1,800 meters under the cover of a 100-year-old forest. While there, Jake and Oliver, our team, were able to camp overnight, their first time ever camping at a coffee farm, and awoke to near freezing temperatures. Those cold overnights, paired with daytime highs in the 70s, extend cherry maturation time, leading to the small, dense cherries that you can see here in my hopper. While there, they were also able to witness the processing techniques that lead to the beautiful flavors in your espresso course. Handpicked, whole cherries are rinsed, floated, and then sealed in an oxygen-free tank to ferment anaerobically for 4 whole days. Those cool overnights help the processing team at Gata to really maximize that fermentation time, leading to the intensely floral, tropical flavors in your espresso course. Post-fermentation, the coffee was dried on raised beds for 3 weeks, dry hulled, and prepared for export. Now, while I'm over here finishing your espressos, I'm going to give you your drinking instructions for these. As I serve you, go ahead and assess the crema, but wait for my instructions to enjoy. You'll be taking 3 sips and stirring 10 times with that first spoon, which you can discard on the saucers in front of you. Okay, while I have your attention, I've got these infographics in front of you too. I'll have you take this moment to affix them to your clipboard like so that you can refer to your tasting notes and ingredients at any time through this presentation. All right, when tasting this espresso with my team, we noticed that as the espresso cooled, the flavors opened up, the sweetness became more pronounced, and the acidity rounded out. And so to mimic this and maximize that juicy sweetness and sparkling acidity, I've extracted your espressos over these chilled whiskey stones. The recipe today is 20 grams in, 64 grams out, in 27 seconds. Get ready to take note of your flavor and tactile calls. So let's talk flavor first. Pineapple acidity. White peach, a floral stone fruit. Clove and cardamom, with a finish of elderflower of fruity florality. Your espresso will have a medium light weight, with a satiny texture, and a long, slightly dry finish. All right, judges, go ahead and stir 10 times, and please enjoy.
Make some noise for Reyna's espressos!
the description of Gata I've given you is a really common way for us to talk about coffee with our guests. But it doesn't get them excited, you know? When sharing this coffee with them, I noticed that it wasn't the tasting notes or the origin stories that really got them excited, but rather our personal connection to it and how enthusiastically we talked about it. So your next course will focus on the connection to this coffee framed in a familiar context. A milk beverage. While working on the roast profile of this coffee with our roasters John and Peter, we noticed that with less development, we amplified the citric acid. But with more development, we muddled the floral complexities of this coffee that I really love. Our intention was to create something that highlighted those beautiful floral and tropical notes that were showcased in your espresso course with a hot, fast roast. Your coffee today was roasted in 9 minutes and 42 seconds with a drop temperature of 405 degrees Fahrenheit, highlighting all of the flavors that I really loved in this coffee. Now, often, as baristas, the coffees we're excited about are excellent as straight espresso, but fall short in milk. I've extracted your espressos to 24 seconds for this course to highlight all of that juicy sweetness and sparkling acidity you tasted earlier. The milk that I'm using was designed specifically to cater to this roast profile too. 50 grams is Alexander Farms 6% whole milk that I froze and then melted for 50% of its total weight, isolating the higher fat content liquid. The remaining 120 grams is non-fat milk from Smith Brothers, a local dairy in Washington. Combined, these add a buttery creaminess that transform the flavors of my delicate espresso into something more approachable, because 90% of our guests get something with milk. Creating an experience that is easy to share is one of the primary ways that we can begin to bridge the gap between our guests and our coffees. Now, while I get these milks dosed out for you, I have some drinking instructions for this, of course. We're going to be taking 4 sips and stirring 10 times. Upon presenting their milk beverages to you, go ahead and assess the visuals, but wait for my instructions to enjoy. All right. Let's talk flavor experience. Get ready to take note. So on your first and last sip, please note flavor of a sweet berry cereal, like Oops, All Berry, Captain Crunch. Then, throughout, caramelized sugar, like the top of a creme brulee. And on the finish, a lingering, sweet but slightly dry, dark Jamaican rum. All right. And as always, you can refer to those tasting notes, again, on the right-hand side of your sheets. Okay, judges, stir 10 times, and please enjoy.
Milk drinks are on the table. Put your hands together, y'all.
Cool. To be totally fair, I had a really hard time connecting to this coffee in preparation. How could I forge a connection to a coffee that I had barely any experience with? We've only sourced it since 2020. I've never met Kenan, nor have I ever been to Gata. But this coffee did offer me something. The flavors of tropical fruit reminded me of home, Hawaii. And so to really connect to this coffee, I had to pick out the flavors that I resonated with. Your next course showcases all of the flavors in this coffee I love, and how I've connected to it. So let's get started. You can look for a list underneath your score sheets if you ever want to look for them. All right, we're building my beverage in my hyper chiller. Over the 4 shots of espresso that I extracted and poured into it earlier, chilling the beverage. Chilling will help us to increase your perception of acidity and decrease bitterness, making the acidity more like the tropical fruits that I love. These next 2 ingredients are inspired by some things from home. So, on the cupping table in Ethiopia, one of the first things that they tasted was dragon fruit, and coincidentally, my neighbors actually grew it, the bright pink kind. So if you've never had it, it tastes like pear, kiwi, and lychee. It's delicious. I'm adding 57 grams of a clarified dragon fruit lime juice made from dragon fruit, lime, sugar, and water, blended and then strained for clarity to enhance the tropical fruit notes of this beverage. Then, I'll be adding 10 grams of one of my favorite drinks from childhood, and also a really popular one back home. It's called Calpico, a lactically fermented drink that tastes like sweet yogurt. Lactic acid is actually the byproduct of the anaerobic fermentation in my coffee, and it's what makes Calpico so delicious, making it the ideal thing to complement that tropical fruit acidity in my coffee. These next 2 ingredients are inspired by some of my favorite aspects of this coffee. Back to the cupping table in Ethiopia, the coffee's aftertaste lingered with a fruity florality, like the elderflower you tasted in your espresso course. And so to highlight that, I'm adding 13 grams of an elderflower syrup made from elderflower, water, sugar, and salt. Then, in every tasting of each roast profile we did for this coffee, the baking spice bitterness complemented the bright tropical fruit flavors of my espresso. And so, to highlight the flavors of my chilled espresso and complement them, I'm adding 10 grams of an aromatic bitters made from gentian root, black cardamom, bitter orange peel, and Sichuan pepper, infused into water, glycerin, and burnt honey. All right. And now I'll be blending everything all together with 1 egg white. And I'll be blending 3 times. Blending with an egg white will help to add a silky texture just like my espresso, as well as create a foam that'll trap the volatile aromatic compounds of this drink, just like the crema of your espresso traps the volatile aromatic compounds. All right, and final ingredient, straight from Olympia, the famous 4 ounces of Olympia artesian well water. It's the same water that we use to cup our coffee, but it's the water that I used to cup the gata upon arrival. I think it makes our coffee taste delicious, making it the perfect complement to dilute this beverage. Diluting will help to also increase your perception of that juicy sweetness and sparkling acidity, as well as help the flavors to open up. And I have some drinking instructions for y'all. Now, as I serve you these, go ahead and assess the visuals, but wait for my instructions to enjoy. This last little touch is just some dragon fruit powder to highlight the tropical fruit aromatics as you drink, as well as harken back to that first tasting note on the cupping table. Let's talk your tasting notes and tactile experience. You'll be taking 2 sips of this beverage. On your first sip, please note the velvety texture with a slight effervescence. On your second sip, go below the foam, where you'll note that the liquid is slightly chilled with a medium weight and a long, slightly dry finish. You'll be tasting pineapple, lychee, orange juice, cardamom, clove, and with a finish of elderflower and lime zest. Coffee is about making connections. By sharing a coffee that I love with you and how I've personally connected to it, I hope that I was able to bridge the gap between you and this coffee too. All right, judges, please enjoy. Time.
Put your hands together. Reyna, Callejo, Olympia Coffee, Seattle, Washington. Yo, no cap. That Olympia water is
It's
for real.
so legit,
yeah,
right?
I was there a week before here, and yeah, that's all I drank was water and coffee at
And
Olympia.
coffee.
Shout out to Sam. I saw him back there pacing. Does he always pace like that?
No, I think I make him nervous.
But I don't see why. That presentation was fire.
Oh, thank you.
Did you compete in Denver or you did?
In Denver.
So you didn't have much time to
Mm-mm.
add the milk beverage to that.
No.
Did you keep everything the
I
same
did,
as the sick
yeah.
beverage? Okay, cool.
Same coffee, same everything.
You said you had trouble connecting with this coffee, so you approached it through flavors, right?
Yeah.
How was that experience?
Totally hard.
Yeah.
We poured over this coffee for weeks at a time, and we're just like, okay, what am I doing? Have I had enough espresso?
You had a lot of flavors in your sick bev.
I did.
How long did it take to develop that?
Don't judge me, okay?
I won't.
3 days.
That's tight. That's tight. That's really tight. So you're basically a cocktail barista bartender at heart, because that was fire. I like the dragon fruit powder touch at the end. You said that added florals to it, right? What else did you add? I couldn't. There was so many ingredients in there.
You know, there's this article that came out by Punch Drink about Calpico, and if you've never had it, it's like yogurt in a cup, but like a little thinner. It's really tasty. That's, I think, really what added the most like fun to my beverage. The dragon fruit lime juice is like cool and whatever, but the Calpico is where it's at.
Right on. So from prelims to qualifiers to nationals, what was your favorite element of competing?
That's a hard one. I mean, my favorite aspect of competing is making the sig drink.
Making a
It's
sick
really
drink.
fun.
Right on.
Yeah.
And you can do it in like 3 days.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what's up. Do you have some questions for Reyna?
Do you have any shout outs?
I do have shout outs. My Olympia coffee team, my 2 coaches are sitting in the front row right there. Nikki Nakashima, Alan Jones. Alan Jones is our head coach. Yeah. And of course, Sam Schroeder for staying in the lab late all the time with me.
All right. Put your hands together, y'all.